And welcome to the fourth episode in this tutorial on how to make a Pong game. In this tutorial we will be making a game class, which is just a little white rectangle on the screen, which will hopefully bounce against the two paddles in the finished game. So just like we did with the paddle class, make a new file in the source directory and save it as B ball.hx. Now write package space semicolon at the top so that we're saying it is part of the project. Now go down a few lines and write class ball with the capital B extends FlexSprite, like that, and then opening and closing curly brackets. Now write public function new, and then like we did with the paddle class, just put a capital X and capital Y separated by a comma. This will be able to change our initial ball's X and Y position when it starts. So like we did with the paddle, again write super X Y, just like that, and we can copy a line of code from the ball class, the make graphic line, underneath this super call, and we can change the 10 and 100, which is 10 pixels wide and 100 pixels high, which makes the paddle the paddle rectangle. We can change that to 1010, and that just makes a small ball rectangle square. Like we did with the paddle class, we have to import flex color so it knows what that is. So just write import flexel.util.flexcolor, like that. And that's all we're going to write for the ball class now. Now to add this newly coded ball to the scene, like we did with the paddles, just write add new ball, and to get the width, like we did here, just write flexg.width, divide by 2, and then for the height, that'll get the width, and then halve it to put it here, and then for the height we want it to go here, so write flexg.height divide by 2, and let's run it. Type not found FlexSprite. Whoops, we forgot to import FlexSprite, which we used here in the ball class. So just import flexel.flexSprite, just like that, like we did with the paddle class. And run. Here we go, we've got a ball on the screen and two paddles. Now you might notice that the ball hasn't moved. That's because we haven't told it to. To tell it to move to the right, we need to set an initial X speed. So to make it move to the right, just write velocity. So that's its speed dot X, so its speed left and right, equals 100. If we put negative 100, it would move to the left, but because we put just positive 100, it will move to the right. And now if we run, we will see that the ball moves to the right. Oh no, it's not moving. Oops, that's because we haven't overridden the public function. So just put override public function update, and then in here put super.update and save. Now when we run, the ball moves to the right of the screen. Now you've probably just noticed that the ball went straight through that paddle. We haven't set up collisions yet, so let's fix that. Collisions happen in your state class, so in our case playstate. So they happen in the update function right here. So we would put flex g dot collide and then we would put ball and paddles, and that would make them collide. Now it won't work at the moment because this piece of code right here doesn't actually know what we're talking about when we say ball and what we're talking about when we say paddles. That's because when we create the paddles and when we create the ball, we're just instantly adding it to the scene and forgetting it. We're never actually storing it in a variable like we did with the paddle class when we remembered the up key and the down key. So to fix that, we need to have a variable up here, so var ball, and then that's of a type, so put colon ball. And notice that the type is with a capital B because the class has a capital B. So now we can remember the ball. We can just put here ball equals. What this means is we're saying remember that the ball is a new ball that we just created at the center of the screen, and then add this ball to the scene. Now you could just as easily have put this on two different lines. So have said ball, the one that we're trying to remember, is equal to a new ball that we put at the center of the screen, and then add this ball to the display. However, I think that putting it all on one line is a little bit cleaner, just takes up less room, but it does exactly the same thing. Now we could have two more variables, for paddle 1 and paddle 2. However, this would be a little bit cumbersome as, you know, we'd have a lot of code duplication. We'd be saying everything for paddle 1 and then saying it again for paddle 2. So instead what we will do is we will create a group. So to do that, just write var paddles is of a type flex group. A flex group is basically Hexflexel's way of storing multiple objects, and put a semicolon. Now, at the moment, our code's got no idea what a flex group is, so that's because we haven't imported it. Let's do that now. So just write import flexel.group.flexgroup, like that. Now, like we did with all our other objects, we need to set it to something, like we did ball equals new ball. So even with the group, we have to say the paddle is equal to a new flex group. So we're saying all of the paddles are of a type group, and we're creating a new group for that now. We could have done here paddles equals new flex group, and it would have done exactly the same thing. However, putting it up here is a little bit cleaner. So now that we have done that, we need to add the two paddles that we've made to the group, the paddles group. So just put paddles.add and paddles.add here. And so we're saying add this new paddle that we just made to the paddles group. Now it's got them in memory and it's referring to them in the paddles group. However, we haven't actually added them to the screen now with the add method like we have here. We can add a whole group of objects to the screen just by putting add and then paddles. So we're adding this group of objects, these paddles here, to the screen all at once. So now that we've done that, we should be able to run the game. And remembering that we've got this collide method down here that's colliding the ball and the paddles, we should see that the ball will actually hit the paddle. Now you'll see something wrong with this. It actually moved the paddle. Now to fix this in our paddle class, we just need to put immovable equals true. What this will do is whenever a collision occurs, it will make sure that the other object moves, not this one. Now if we run, we will see Okay, I just noticed then that the reason that it wasn't working as expected and it was still moving the paddle was because I hadn't saved the code that I'd changed in the paddle class, which was immovable equals true. Just always make sure you save the files after you've edited them, or you can get some really weird behavior. Now, our code isn't entirely done because now, as you can see when we play it, it hits it and then, and ignore that. uh, so now what we have to do to make sure that it bounces back is we need to put an extra argument in here, which just says function ball paddles. So we're passing in a function to the collide method, which is saying when the ball collides with the paddle, call this function. So we're actually writing a function inside the argument. Remember to put the closing curly bracket. Now, if we run this now, you will see that well, you won't actually see any changes because when it collides, what's happening is it's calling this piece of code in here. But because we haven't written any code, nothing's being called. But here is where we will increase the scores. You can put a comment just with / and put increase scores, just to remind us that in a future episode we have to increase the scores here. Now, as you've noticed, the ball isn't bouncing back. It's a super easy fix to fix that. Just right after here, elasticity equals 1. So this is out of 1, so it's from 0 to 1. Now, if we run this now, you'll see that it's got 100% force when it bounces back. So it doesn't, none of the force is taken away when it hits it. So it doesn't really obey physics, because that's what Pong's like. Now when it hits it, you'll see it bounces back, and we can move the paddles. And there we go. So it's mostly a working Pong game, except for the fact that the ball never moves up or down. In the official Pong game, hitting it up the top will make it move at a different angle down, and so we will be coding that along with the scores in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions, as usual, just contact me on Twitter.